Boy, is that a very good assessment. I mean, I assumed there would be the first institution it should take a scorched earth approach to is the Treasury and the Cabinet Office. No generation of Britons will prosper and become rich until you have a leader that deals with the mandarins in Whitehall the way Margaret Thatcher dealt with the NUM.
This Labour government I knew was going to be bad. I knew they were going to fail. I just never thought they were going to be this bad, this fast, and fail within 5 months of getting into office. Is that a fair assessment?
Boy, is that a very good assessment. I mean, I assumed there would be a few years of honeymoon for Starmer. My sort of memory of 1997 is that, you know, for a couple of years he would sort of walk on water. Well, I think he fell flat on his face in a puddle on day one. But you know, what is so alarming is that although he is making half a dozen really bad decisions and on a half a dozen key strategic issues is heading in the wrong direction, there doesn't at the moment seem to be a clear alternative, because in a weird way, what Starmer is doing is doubling down on the strategic errors and mistakes and misjudgments and bad policy of his predecessors. And I want to talk about this in half a dozen different areas. You know, one of the reasons why Britain is in a sorry economic state, you know, I'm talking to you from a country, the United States, where in 2007, the per capita GDP between the two countries was roughly the same, give or take. Since 2007, the economy of the United States, the GDP output per person in the United States has grown by 20%. So since 2007, people are pretty much 20% richer. In Britain, the growth since 2007 has been 4.5%. So not even a quarter of the growth in the United States. Now, to understand the mess Britain's in, you've got to ask, why since 2007 has Britain so underperformed the rest of the world, particularly the United States? 6 basic reasons. Number one, energy. Britain has a economically suicidal energy policy that basically means electricity and gas are so expensive. The problem is that this was done under the Conservatives. Labour is now making it worse. Labour under Miliband is making the energy system even worse. But the problem is, because it was done by the Conservatives for 14 years, there's no clear alternative. The same with the other reason why Britons are growing poor is because too many people in Britain work in the public sector, and public sector has low productivity. If you want to create growth, one of the things you need to do is move people from the public sector to the private sector. Again, I'm afraid to say that the Conservatives made a really bad job of this, and Labour came in and is making it worse. They've given these very generous pay settlements to the public sector, and they're hiring more people in the public sector, so they're doubling down on a Conservative error. Again, the NHS, you know, Britain is told that, you know, they've got this wonderful free system of socialised healthcare. It's not great. It really isn't. You pay enormous amounts for it through taxation, and it's not there when you need it. Poor people in Mississippi, people living in the Mississippi Delta, have better cancer survival rates with the American system than Brits do with your so-called wonderful free NHS. You're not getting value for money from your NHS, which is consuming so much of your national wealth and has such poor productivity. You can't grow economically and prosper economically until you address that. The fourth reason is the folly of the British Treasury, which for years has told ministers that the way to secure economic growth is to import people. This belief that somehow immigration will generate wealth. Well, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. What you do is you import people with low skills and you become poorer because the number of people grows, but the size of the economy doesn't grow by the same amount. So you become poorer. A fifth failure is that the British economy has been strangled by governments for the past 20 years with micro-regulation. You need a permit to do pretty much anything in Britain today. This strangles innovation. It means that you know, good luck to producing anyone like Elon Musk in Britain. Anyone like Elon Musk with his talents in Britain would end up working for the council rather than building rockets or cars. Now, to try to counter the dead weight effect of all this regulation, consecutive British governments have opened the taps up with low cheap loans, easy money and credit, and eventually you can't do that anymore. And Britain is, I think, under Starmer, reaching the end of the road as to how you can use monetary stimulus to offset this sclerotic economy. And the sixth and final reason is you've got a system of government in Britain that's basically dysfunctional. You've got a civil service that doesn't listen to ministers. It does what it wants. It can get rid of ministers. That's essentially what happened to Boris Johnson. He was sacked by civil servants on the question of whether or not he ate a birthday cake during COVID. You've got a dysfunctional system of government. You've got an administrative state in Britain that is just appalling. Now, all of these factors, the Conservatives, but Labour is doubling down on all of them. On all of those things are getting worse under Labour, not better. So, if you really want to fix the country, forget Starmer. He's only going to make things worse. What you need is a centre-right political movement that repudiates 14 years of atrocious Conservative legacy on the economy and comes in and takes a scorched earth approach to this. And the first institution it should take a scorched earth approach to is the Treasury and the Cabinet Office. No generation of Britons will prosper and become rich until you have a leader that deals with the mandarins in Whitehall the way Margaret Thatcher dealt with the NUM. You must recognize that the people in the upper echelons of the British state need to be removed from office. And you need far-reaching radical reform. You could almost say, having achieved home rule with Brexit, you now need to change who rules you at home.